Hi folks, I'm Debbie Dempsey, one of the founders of your community boating center. I come from a background of community sailing centers on the East Coast, where in 1952 my folks and their pals all started a junior sailing academy that's still going strong today. What that experience led me to, learning how to sail at the age of 8, was to becoming a professional mariner. I drove ships around the world for 18 years and ended up being a Columbia River bar pilot for 22 years. I'm fully retired now, and this is where I love to spend my time. My passion, my heart, my drive, the Community Boating Center. Why a community boating center? Community boating center is unique in the sense that there are no memberships, there are no dues. We're here for all. Our mission statement is all about fostering small watercraft recreation, access for everybody, no matter your financial hurdle, your physical hurdle, your lack of education of how to recreate safely in this cold water environment. We figure there's probably 90% of the population in Bellingham that doesn't know how to use their backyard. The backyard being Bellingham Bay, right out here.
Hi, I'm Steve Walker. A few years ago, when I was serving as the executive director of the Community Boating Center, I was asked by Bob Keller, professor emeritus at Western, to come to the Unitarian Church and lead a discussion about boating. And I have to admit, I was really taken back. I wasn't quite sure why I would do that in that setting. And yet, when I spoke to this group, and I didn't have to speak long, all I did was ask people to share their boating experiences. And the session went way beyond what was scheduled. And people shared these stories, really intimate stories about boating experiences that were transformational in their lives, really fond memories of time with their parents and with their siblings and with their friends. And most of them were really, really joyful experiences, although some were anxious experiences, and people shared that they were grateful for both, whether they merely endured it or just grew through it. And I really recognize just the transformational power of boating as an activity. It's something that opens you up to experiences with the natural world, with other human beings, and maybe more than anything, with yourself. So boating has a way of engaging us and taking us to places outside of ourselves. And the wonderful thing is that it's a continuum of experiences, and there's a niche for everybody, whether it's just outings close to the shoreline, or grand adventures, or circumnavigations, or competition, or dare I say, obsession.
So what is the Community Boating Center? The Community Boating Center is a grassroots organization. We're a nonprofit, a registered 501c3. Why? Why are we needed? Why wouldn't it be great if we had an accredited program in all our schools, all Whatcom County schools, that we got all our youth out on the water? What does being successful on the water mean? It teaches you a discipline that translates into all aspects of a successful life. Just learning how to row. Row is a life skill. We'll teach you how to do that. Bioluminescence paddles. What joy to be out there on the water and watching, if you've never experienced bioluminescence. It's phenomenal.
My point is there's a niche for everyone in the world of boating. And in this town, in Bellingham, it's the community boating center that makes sure no one is left behind. The boating center is a gateway to experience the rewards of boating. Now, if you look at the Community Boating Center logo, you'll see that the word community is bigger than anything else. And that's not a coincidence or an accident. It's because the boating center really is about people and sharing the gift of the bay and the joys of boating. And I remember a party that we had one year at the end of the season. It was for volunteers, and the goal was to celebrate the selflessness of so many people putting in the effort to sustain the center. And we had it was called Chipino for Champions. So we made this big batch of fish stew, and it was part of the reason it was memorable is that the seafood processors who donated the ingredients went completely overboard. We had so much seafood, fish, that the stew was hardly any room for broth. It was a beautiful thing, and it was delicious, and we broke bread, and we made toasts, and we laughed, and we gave out prizes, and then there was a point in the evening where this one volunteer came over, took me aside, and said that his experience when he first moved to Bellingham was kind of troubling. He had a really hard time making a connection with community, and then he took a class here, and he ended up volunteering. Both he and his wife ended up volunteering, and he said to me, almost with tears in his eyes, that he felt like he had finally found his people, and that was just a really powerful moment for me, and a really good reminder of how the boating center is a real community.
One thing I'd love to share with you are some of the stories early on that happened to us when we started this wonderful nonprofit. So, how did the boating center come to be? Well, in 2006, Mary and Deb moved up to Bellingham, and we were looking around for the local community boating center. Of course, we're used to the East Coast where everybody's got a community boating center, but there was none. We made friends with a bunch of rowers, and we all wanted a location to row from. The community boating center became that. There were about 5 of us who are founders. Mike Passo, Mary Durbrow, myself, Jim Stedman, Greg Farmer. What did we know, So we found this place, Fairhaven Boatworks, and July 6, 2007, we opened our doors. What did opening day look like? Oh my gosh. I never ever left the retail desk. By the end of day, we had $1,300 cash and no safe in which to put it. It was amazing. We were exhausted. It was joyous. Just to see Jim Stedman down there at the boat launch, loading somebody into a kayak who had never had that experience before. Some fun things that happened to us early on. As you can see, from the color of the buildings, they're kind of joyous. They're kind of look like you're in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean. So we decided we had to paint these buildings that we adopted from Fairhaven Boatworks, and we actually approached Sherwin-Williams to donate paint, and we picked out these colors: the turquoise and the international orange. And Sherwin-Williams donated $1,100 worth of paint and had this all ready for us. We had a painting contractor lined up with all his equipment, and all the volunteers to do this in a weekend. A week before that weekend, we learned from the port that there's a painting review committee. And we said, uh-oh. And we learned that the port's preference is beige. And of course, our argument was beige? How can you see beige from the water? You need that international orange. And they said, okay. Little did they know, we already had $1,100 worth of paint sitting at the Community Boating Center in these particular colors. And within a couple of weeks, all the people at the Port of Bellingham said, we love it. So here we are. You can spot us a mile away out there on your boat. And also, folks, you'll notice up on the top of this building, the gear shed building, are the letters CBC, big block white letters. That was always a goal of mine, wanting to have that so you can see it when you're way up on the top of the hill down here in the south end of Bellingham in Fairhaven. Well, Steve Walker, our wonderful executive director for 5 years, when he retired, he took on that project. And it's amazing what he put himself through in doing that. But it's there to stay for all to see. There was a port commissioner by the name of Scott Walker when we were approaching the port to turn over the lease for Fairhaven Boat Works to the Community Boating Center. And he lives right up the hill. And we just wanted him to see the Community Boating Center every time he looks out his window. Another wonderful happening here at the Community Boating Center is donations, not only monetary, but boat donations. In the early days, we had a gentleman approach us with a pygmy wine glass wherry that he had built himself. And he rowed it every day. Unfortunately, he learned that he had a terminal illness, and he just wanted the boat to continue to have a life on the water. And he donated it to the Community Boating Center. And it's still here today. We had one young man approach us. He wanted to rent a rowboat to which he could row down to Chuckanut Bay and propose to his fiancée on Dot Island. So he had the diamond ring, he rented the boat, and the weather was god-awful. He pulled it off, and I think they had a happy wedding and are still rowing today. So what does the boating center need and want for the future? We need a dock. The Port of Bellingham is actively working on our behalf with a grant to help us secure that dock. Adaptive technology. That's always been a dream, just haven't had the finances to do so. Hot and cold running water and a head to replace that porta potty down there. Winter classes, a building in which to conduct winter classes. The ability to not only use our workshop, which has that great wood stove in it, to have a boat building program. Accreditation within our local schools, all Whatcom County schools.
So you're already part of the community at the CBC, or you wouldn't be watching this video. The center is really blessed to have a very dedicated and talented staff, a hardworking board of directors, and a really appreciative community of users. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the grocery store or at the co-op or somewhere, and so I'm wearing my Community Boating Center t-shirt or hat, and someone comes up and says, "Oh God, I love the Community Boating Center." And it's true, people really do appreciate the CBC. And to sustain that, it needs support. financial support, and you're in a position to help with that. So please make a donation, bid on an auction item, contribute your time if you have it, but help sustain the Community Voting Center, and keep on voting. It's good for you.
And folks, thanks a million for your continued support and participating in this week of fundraising and raising that paddle. Please know the auction is live till 9 o'clock tonight, and there's some great items there. I hope you win one. And please know you can donate throughout the year, volunteer with us, and help us get our youth out on the water. Thank you. Raise that paddle.